We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
Looks like the rain has gone.
G'day and welcome to another episode of the Mankind Podcast, the show where we break the molds of modern manhood to prove there is more than one way to be a man. And today we are joined by Trevor Hendy. Throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s, Hendy competed in Ironman surf life-saving races, winning the Australian Championships 6 times. Trevor was also a Malibu board paddler, winning multiple Australian championships. He was made a member of the Order of Australia in 1996 for services to surf lifesaving, and is a member of not just the Gold Coast, which is my hometown, but also the Queensland and Australian Surf Lifesaving Halls of Fame. After hanging up the cap and budgie smugglers in the early 2000s, Trevor has continued to compete in various disciplines, including a miraculous victory in 2015 alongside his son TJ at the Australian Surf Lifesaving titles in open mailboard rescue at the ripe age of 46 years old. He's a proud father of 4, daughters Christelle and Yarly, and sons TJ and Bailey, and husband to Jackie. He now resides on the Gold Coast as a motivational speaker and life coach. Trevor, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brandon. And the only one mess up of the whole intro, mate, is not husband to Jackie. That was my first wife. Husband to Joe. So that's good. That's fine.
Husband to Joe. Okay. Yeah. You know what? I can re-record that on the back end, or just leave it, because guess what?
It's fine.
We're fallible, mate. To Joe, it's the J.
Yeah,
it was the J that got me.
Joe, that's right. And just on that, it's actually been a beautiful thing, because I think in the sense of the first relationship was from very young, from 19 to 26. I was married, and then when it doesn't work, it's like you're a failure, and of course in your own mind, well, you start trying to blame the other person, but then really, for me, I just started to actually, well, I'm no good, I failed, I wasn't able to do that, or whatever it was. And the cool thing about it was I've had second major relationship and marriage with Joe, and we've been together for 25 years or so, plus more, 27 years. And it's kind of funny, because think back to being a man. What is a man? A man provides, and a man, puts the picket fence around his family and keeps him safe and looks after his wife and raises his kids and everything else. Well, I've had 2 wives and 2 kids with each, so I went 4 all up. But the crazy thing is, and even when you said, speaking to a man, I'm thinking I'm probably several men, because I've different parts of my life I felt like a different person, but different versions of what a man needs to be. But the reason I said it is that the amazing thing is having a beautiful relationship now, and having a beautiful relationship with my ex-partner, who I call her my first wife, not so much my ex-wife, because it's all led me to be the person I am today. And without that, I wouldn't have the love I have with Joe, and vice versa, So It's funny that that there was a Freudian slip there, but it's a perfect opportunity to say, sometimes life takes you down a track that the end result is better than what society would have you plan. Because society would say, well, make it work and stay there till the end. And well, actually, what I got now is an amazing first wife who I'm great friends with, and we do anything for each other, and an incredible, second wife, current wife, who's literally feels like we're still on a honeymoon. It's kind of crazy. We still, we didn't get married till about 2015. So 8 years ago from all the time, because you kind of avoid marriage after being married, and we got married, but it actually feels like it's still a honeymoon. We still have our moments, and we laugh at each other, and we're like, oh, I got the shits with you today. But we just clear it straight away. So so that's the first good update for you, mate. Life is good, and more is better.
More is better. More wives. Just pack them on.
More
wives.
More people you've loved.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry.
Love back,
I'm like, I lived in Utah. I get the more wives thing, but
not quite that way. No.
Well, Matt. So yeah, absolutely. You mentioned kind of the picket fence, right? Being a man, the expectation is to kind of lock it down, to be able to have the control, keep the peace, keep things afloat. We've had many join us on the podcast over the years to talk about, divorce is there's such a stigma around the word, when more often than not, done correctly, you can renegotiate the relationship.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it sounds like you've done that in a beautiful way and still get to co-parent.
It becomes what it could be, which is when you take out this pressure of marriage and all these promises we make, which I swear have been set up to actually take out love. Because a marriage, the actual word of marriage means I understand you at the level that you understand me at the level that there's a marriage. We are married as in our two souls kind of connect together. And I said that before, common community, common unity, that's what a marriage is. It's two people on the same page. So you can have a marriage certificate, but most people aren't actually in a marriage because they're in a separation. They're separate from each other. They're doing the roles and the duties that they should do. And maybe they've got enough respect for each other to keep going for the kids or whatever else. But a lot of people aren't in the love that they started in anymore. And that doesn't mean you leave, so you get the love and it's over some other fence and the grass is greener over there. But it does mean you have to do whatever it takes to go, well, I want to live in love, not live in separation posing as what we call marriage, because promises are very shallow when actually I'm still got the shits with you for something you said to me 6 years ago. Whatever I'm promising now doesn't add up to much because I haven't let go of that, So,
right.
So absolutely things get renegotiated from a level of willingness to go, no, I want to stand for love, not marriage,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not institution. Let's say love, not institution. I want to stand for real marriage, not for institution.
Sure. Yeah, not just the tax benefits.
Yeah, that's right.
There's something in that, right? The willingness doesn't mean you have to have the wantingness, because I don't want to have this conversation right now. But the willingness to go, no, like I'm committed to you. I choose you. I choose us. Yeah, let's do it. It's messy. It's not linear, but let's do this. Well, Trevor, let's do this. I want to get a bit of a snapshot of early life for you. My understanding is you spent a lot of time traveling as a kid and getting quite diverse experiences. I want to kind of just look at early childhood to kind of, your late teens, getting into your early adulthood in, arguably one of the greatest Australian athletes at the time. Mate, give us a snapshot of that. What was life like growing up, and what do you believe culminated to you becoming the athlete that you became?
Isn't it a many-faceted thing? Like a jewel has many facets on it. Is that I was born in Melbourne. For non-Australians, that's right down the bottom southeast of Australia, so that's the cold spot. It would be the weather equivalent of probably San Francisco, maybe somewhere between San Francisco and New York in weather equivalent.
Yeah, well said.
Like get the snow, but gets cold and everything else. I now live on the Gold Coast, which is the weather equivalent of Florida. So and probably Miami, something like that. Maybe Kansas, Miami, so maybe not quite that far, but so my father, when I was 3 years of age, he came home and he had the picket fence and he had the wife and the two kids and the pets and the house that he built. A great job. Had, what should be the respect of everybody else because he's an upstanding member of the community. And he come home and he just went, two things are not right. One is everyone who's working with would constantly talk about, oh, we want to go on a break, and they wanted to go overseas. And he was like, why would you not want to see your own country first? So what my dad didn't realize at the time, which I now understand, was my father was getting called to country. So in Australia, we say called to country, which is basically from our First Nations people. They talk about country calls you. You're on country. You don't live in this country. You live on country. Mm-hmm. And so country is a being. Country is all the heritage, is all the history, is country is a living thing. So from a spiritual perspective, the original spirituality of this nation, of this land, was that you are sitting on a hotbed of creation of all the past and the possibilities and everything else. And if you have a sense of reverence and a sense of connection and you follow your intuition and your instincts and everything else, you can eke out a beautiful life. So that's the original spirituality of this land, because it came from the First Nations people. I don't like to call them the Aboriginals because ab means not. So they're not originals. They were the originals. So
Thank you.
Yeah, and so a lot of them are okay with that too. They're okay to be called that. But from what I understand, no, they're our original people. So my dad was getting called to country. That was the first thing. And the second thing he said was, I just don't know if this is the right place. I've got everything I'm supposed to have. but I feel a bit vacuous. You know, he wouldn't have used those words, but he felt a bit like something's not right. And he said, honey, Bev, my mum, let's pack up, put everything, sell the house, put everything in storage, and let's travel around Australia for a couple of years while the kids are young, and they can do school by correspondence, which is by mail, you know. And so I think of that and I go, okay, called the country, which is spirit. You know, if you think of it from values that my father engaged in and allowed to flow through him, spirit, intuition, courage, breaking the paradigm. So there was some sort of an awareness or a recognition or you know, something scratching his soul, just itching his soul, going, go do something different. The element of not quite right, as opposed to not enough. This is not enough. It's not good enough. It's like, it's good enough, but it's not quite right. Doesn't feel right. Then my mum comes up with the courage and the faith to back him, the unconditional love to say, you lunatic, okay, let's do it, you know. And so when we set off from Victoria to travel around Australia for a couple of years with a caravan on the back, you would say travelling around Australia is a bloody beautiful way to grow up and learn at 3 to 5 years of age. Is to, you know, they say between conception and 7 years of age is when we get most of our life patterns are etched inside of us. So right in the middle of that, 3 to 5, I'm travelling around Australia with these beautiful values that I've just mentioned. And you would say travelling around Australia is a beautiful thing to do, but the biggest thing for me is that I travelled around Australia being loved, supported, looked after, educated, taught, handheld by a man and a woman who went, no, there's more. There's something else. So they were exploring outside the box, you know. So it's no surprise that I've grown up living outside the box and exploring outside the box and not taking the box, you know, at any way, shape or form as being the thing that I've got to, you know, idolize or whatever else. So by the time I learned how to swim while I was traveling around, so, you know, obviously my sport and my life became all about swimming, and I learned how to swim in a crocodile-infested river. You know,
you better be good quick.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I tell you what, you don't do is swim at the back of the pack. You know? So I also I played in Indigenous settlements, and I played with the kids, and I was one of them. And I took my big Matchbox collection of cars, and I would pull it out of the back of the truck when we pulled into these settlements, and I would be straight over and open them up and share them with the kids, and we'd all be playing with them. And my mum would be like, "Where's Trevor?" And it'd be like, "Oh, there he is over there. He's gone already." You know, so. So I grew up, and I think a lot of people that are listening would probably feel those values and go, "Wow, what a free way to live, to grow up." Also, mum and dad worked wherever they went, so we actually drove 2 hours up the road and stayed there for 3 months. But then we moved, and went all the way around the country. But wherever they went, they would intuitively go to this place, and they'd have a job for them. Dad was a builder and a mechanic, and mum could cater, clean, you know, all sorts of different things. So they would get work. So we weren't freeloading and we weren't bludging. We were going around in a balanced lifestyle, like actually living, exploring, freeing, meeting new people. But at the same time, they were contributing to the community they were in. They were doing a job that hadn't been finished for a long time. And that guy's going, "Oh, thank God you turned up. I thought that job would never get done." And my dad got it done in 2 months, and then we moved on, you know.
Wow.
So I just wanted to add to that if you look at that at the base and you go, you know, the other story was my dad would pull up. One of the things he did was we'd pull up in the caravan way off the side of the road in the middle of nowhere, and he'd take my sister Diane, who's 5 years older than me, take us off for a walk while mum was cooking up literally rabbit or chicken or fish. We'd buy the chicken, but we'd catch the rabbit or the fish, you know. And so she'd be cooking up that, and we'd go off for a walk, and he'd walk us around and change directions and go different ways. And then after about 40 minutes or so, he'd go, "All right, which way's the caravan? You know, which way's home?" And we'd have to work out, you know, we'd have to have a crack at getting back to the caravan after we'd taken all the different directions. And so we cottoned onto it pretty quick. So by the time I'm 4 years of age, I could walk off into the bush for 40 minutes and then lead us home, you know, no problems. I was onto it. So I take that one trait, and I'll come back to it soon, because he taught me how to find my way home. And he taught me that life is about going off the beaten track and exploring beyond the safety of what keeps you feeling safe and secure. You grow most in the places you don't feel safe and secure. You know, I'd learned so much out on those tracks. So anyway, we travel around Australia, settle on the Gold Coast, at 5 years of age. We were 2.25 years around Australia. At 8 years of age, 7 years of age, I joined the Nippers as under 8. Cry on my first day, didn't want to be there, etc.
So just quickly, explain nippers to Americans.
So lifeguards in America is what you saw on Baywatch. You know, that they're down there with their rescue boards and maybe some skis and some boats and things like that. And they go out and they rescue people out of the water. Lifeguards are paid in the US. In Australia, lifesavers, we have lifeguards that are paid, but lifesavers are voluntary. So they turn up every weekend, and in groups of, 5 to 10, they sit on a beach and they patrol that local beach, just like a lifeguard would, but there's more of them, and their mums and dads, their kids, grown-up kids and everything. So in the lifeguard system in the US, you have junior lifeguards. In the life-saving system in Australia, we have junior lifesavers, which pre-13 are called nippers.
So thank you for that, because it's encouraging to know that your first day at Nippers, you cried only to become an Australian champion, because I cried my first day in Nippers and my parents were like, all right, well, that didn't work. Yanks me out of it. whereas my brother, every weekend from the age of 14 to 20, every weekend he was at Northcliffe Surf Club as a surf lifesaver.
And that's the thing, horses for courses or spirits for certain games, it's a different spirit for a different game, right? But I absolutely cried. And you know what, I didn't cry about the ocean or whatever. I mostly cried about the competition. I cried about the pressure. We had to swim 6 laps across a hotel swimming pool on the first day. And when I looked around at all the kids going like this and stretching their arms and their goggles pulled down, I'm in a pair of board shorts or whatever, I'm thinking, oh my God, they want to kill me, I could feel the sense of they were measuring me up, and what they were seeing was not much threat, So there's a reason why I say this, because I literally this morning started the word measuring up, started to come through in something that I'm clearing in myself. But so I literally felt like I didn't measure up. So I cried, didn't want to be a part of it. My dad, to his credit, what he did was he grabbed me, made me not do this little race, said here and held me. And when the race finished and they all walked down the beach for the beach events, he then got me to do the 6 laps on my own. So he lowered the confront. And so instead of me being so scared I didn't do something at all and had a pattern of avoiding things, he lowered it down. So I still did the activity, but I lessened the confront because I wasn't with the other people. Then he went, now you've done that, I'll take you down the beach and you can do whatever you want down there. And I got into the beach flags and I enjoyed it. And I kind of, by the first day, I was like, I might go back next week. But that little value lesson there that he said, no, don't give up. Just pull back. Yeah, pull back. That's okay. You can be scared. So pull back. Change the way you go about it, but do it. That thing and finding my way home. So finding my way home, but when things get too steep, just pull back, lower it down, but don't give up. Go until you conquer it. Those 2 things that my father gave me were absolutely huge. And I'll finish this part for you because what happened was, you said to me, what was life like growing up for you? By the age of 10, 11, 12, I'm still a sensitive little kid that loved my mother and wanted to be out playing with the Indigenous kids and, hugging and kissing and just being a happy little kid. And then slowly but surely, I'm 13, I'm 14, hang on, that kid's got hair under his arms and he seems to have chests and he's walking around the shower and he's got big balls and, next minute I'm like, I've got, what's that? That's not the same size as what he's got, no hairs. I'm a skinny little kid, I'm freckly. They're going to parties, I'm scared of the parties because I don't know how to talk to girls. They're coming back telling stories about how they kissed this girl, and I won't go further into all the things that we know as men that they say, and even at a young age, I did this and I did that. And I'm there just slowly but surely not measuring up. And so as they're growing, I get to about 14 or 15, and there was initiations in the surf club where basically you would get flushed by the senior members. They'd run around, catch you, take you, put your head in the toilet and flush the button. And, now you've been flushed, you're initiated with everybody else, everybody's been through it. Well, my dad was the chief instructor and my mum was the caterer for the surf club. So the senior members loved them and they didn't want to flush their little kid, flush their 14, 15-year-old son. They were like, oh, don't flush Trev, we won't get Bev's chocolate eclairs after the function or whatever, And so the guys a couple of years older than me or a year older than me all kind of all got together and went, well, he has to go through what we went through. you know, to their credit, they were like, no, we can't not go through what we went through. So they chased me and flushed me and initiated me and whatever else. Now, the thing about that is that that's horrendous. That's illegal now to do anything like that. That's abuse and all sorts of different stuff. And back then we used to say, oh, it's, you know, only the tough survive and only the strong survive. And
rite of passage.
Makes you into a man and rite of passage and everything else. But it's a horrendous rite of passage, you know, because what it was actually doing was saying you're a piece of shit unless you get this initiation. So you have to feel like a piece of shit, probably with a piece of shit hovering around your head. So you're no longer a piece of shit. Now you're a man. And what that did, it had created a feeling in me of not being good enough that was already there unless I play this game. So I have to play the game to be good enough. I have to play the game to get the girl. I have to play the game to get the acknowledgement. I have to play the game to be liked or admired. I have to play the game to be asked where we're going to surf at that sandbank or drive down the beach there, or we're going to go and have a thick shake. When everyone asks, if you're not one of the guys, then you don't get asked, you know. So we all know this right throughout the world. It's ancient, but this unconscious rite of passage that you have to play the game to be a someone. And so what actually happened was I didn't like the feeling of being a nobody. So I traded away my sensitivity, my love, my intuition to a degree, which would have said, no, don't play the game. Just don't bugger them. Don't play the game, you know. And I traded it all away to play the game. And what happened was, because the words, again, I didn't measure up unless. And the last piece of the picture is my mum and dad to me were like gods. So they were the providers. You know, when you come down, when you're a baby, there's no such thing as God other than maybe an energetic thing that you still connect with. It's just more of a spiritual connection than a concept of God. But the gods,
they're deities.
They're deities. They tell you, you do this, you eat your veggies, you're allowed to have your dessert. You clean up your room or make your bed, you're allowed to go out and play. So there's rules and commandments and everything else. So literally, when I'm trying to be like my mum and dad, who seem to have this incredible bond, and everyone said, what an amazing relationship, and your father, Australian Armed Forces boxing champion, he's a builder, he can make anything work. We'd go to the Northern Territory and he'd jump off the side of, you know, Land Cruisers at 30 k's an hour, grab the tail of a buffalo and pull it to the ground and tie its feet up, and I'd be sitting there watching and they'd be filming. They're like, yeah, Ron, you're one of us. And so I just was never going to be as good as my dad in the back of my mind.
There you
go. And I
go.
say all this to answer the question when you said, what was life like when you're growing up? All those elements. But then I carried this thing of not being good enough, not measuring up, and failure, shortfall, until eventually I went, are we allowed to swear on this podcast, Brandon? Is it, you know?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, mate. I'll just say, because it's the nature of this thing. It's like this nature of the energy, even though I wouldn't have chose this word at that age. I'm like, fuck it. Like literally that was their energy, was fuck it, like a line right through it. Because that word fuck is like a line right through something, you know. It's done. It was like, fuck it, can't beat them, join them. It was more like, it wasn't if I can't beat them, join them. It was more like, if I don't win, I'll be a nothing or a nobody.
Yeah, the story will be true. You'll prove yourself right.
And what happened was a great spiritual teacher of mine later in life, he said to me, when you have a solution to a problem without a change of awareness, that solution will eventually become the problem. So my solution to the problem of feeling like a nothing and a nobody was to become a somebody that could never be dismissed again. So I didn't just decide to win. I decided to win more than anybody ever. Like it was a conscious decision. And then you will never be able to disrespect me again, treat me like that, and I'll never, ever have to feel this again. So what I did was I said about being this person, but this person was suppressing that pain. So I didn't have to feel that pain because I was actually this person who doesn't feel that pain. I was the Iron Man, you know. So next minute I'm in the Hall of Fame and I'm on Baywatch and I'm hanging out with Madonna and Michael Jackson and, you know, playing on stage with the Beach Boys, and I'm having those, and all things literally happen. I'm having these incredible experiences around the world because I'm a someone, but underneath it, I was still this kid that felt like if that all falls apart, I'm still a no one because I never let myself feel the pain of feeling like a nobody to the point where I felt it and it would dissolve. And so after all these years, just this morning, I'm hiking up a hill and I still had the feeling. When I was younger, we had 3 champion swimmers in this call a swim team. 4 people go out and they count up the points of the 4 people. They all race together against everybody else. All these teams full of 4 people. And so I'm the 4th person in the swim team as a nipper. And they'd get 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, or 1st, 2nd, and 4th, or 5th. And I'd get 18th or 20th, and we'd maybe scrape in for 2nd place or something. So I always felt inadequate, not good enough, like I let the team down, like they failed, but because of me, they would have felt great now, but we got a silver medal, not the gold. And eventually I became the guy that if I was in your team, we're going to win. Because I flipped it. And I went, no, I'm never going to feel it. So even this morning, hiking up a hill, getting prepared to go and take 15 people on a hike in Tasmania, and I'm stopping up this hill and I'm going, what's that feeling? It's not my physical fitness. Why do I feel? And I'm like, it's this feeling of letting people down, an ancient feeling that I'll let the tribe down or I'll let the team down. So I've kind of summarized everything so we can branch into other areas, bro. But literally I had to, I was a nobody and then I became a somebody. I was a nobody who was actually a somebody because I was connected to the world. But I thought psychologically felt I was a nobody. I became a somebody psychologically. And then I had to release that to actually just know that everybody is a somebody. And the part of the magic in us is found when we slow down and stop trying to win, prove, perform, dominate, get ahead, suppress, all these different things. That's where we find each other. That's where the common unity is. That's where the true community of men is in the healing of this ancient wound that we must go until we've proved that we're someone and we're worthy of the tribe's respect.
Well said. Well said. This ancient wound of you got to keep proving yourself.
Ancient and present now. It's ancient. It's present now, like a feeling, like a cancer inside of us.
It sure is. There's so much there that I personally can resonate with, and knowing now, having prepared for this interview, knowing a bit more of your story through various other podcasts and such. You summarized it very well just in the past 20 minutes or so of kind of how it got you to, Australian champion and Beach Boys, Madonna, Uncle Toby's winner. Now, so here's what you're going to hear, or perhaps let me talk to the listener now. Here's what you may be thinking. All right, so you got your head flushed. You're a part of the tribe. And then you had to maintain the status quo, right, to stay a part of the tribe. You had to play the game. You had to say the things they were saying, keep winning.
And if you want to move up in the tribe, you have to win more than everybody else. So you're not just part of it. Now you get to control the conditions of the tribe.
So now there are rungs on the ladder. There are rungs on the ladder here. You need to beat 1, 2, 3 to become number one. So what resonates so much with me, and before that, so your listeners out there right now, you may be thinking, well, didn't it serve a purpose, right? Didn't that paradigm or that persona as the winner serve a purpose? And so it did, right? It did, right? It allowed you to.
I'm so grateful for it.
Absolutely, because that's one of the beefiest intros I've done for this show over 100 episodes. There's some accolades and awards there. It did serve a purpose. However, Trevor, I want to ask you where you sit today. If you look back at all that you've achieved and everything that served its purpose, do the titles, do the accolades, do all those things stand out on top?
No, thanks, mate. Great question. No, they don't. They stand in their own unique place where it's a place where I proved that I could pull off anything if I really put my mind to it. It's a place where I explored what I was capable of, how strong I could follow my intuition, how much I could work with others, how open I was to changing and shifting and being the vulnerable, because to win and to put yourself up to win, you've got to be able to lose too.
Yeah.
So there's a vulnerability in actually putting yourself on the line over and over again. So I look at the titles as they were the carrot that took me through the journey. If it wasn't for the thought that I have to win to be respected, or win to be loved, or win to feel free, or win to feel good enough about myself. It's funny because I turned myself into someone else so that I could feel good enough about being myself. So didn't work, because ultimately it taught me so much about who I really am and what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
It also meant that I couldn't get there just in my body and my mind. So my spirit, the love of my first partner and my family, the love of my second partner, my beautiful wife Jo, the love of my kids, the love of my club mates, of sponsors that said, "Wow, we want to hitch our wagon to this guy's train, and go the journey with him, including your father." People loved me and looked after me, and they recognized something in me that to this day I'm still opening up to and understanding and letting come through in a more healthy dynamic. So there was so much right about it. But when I look back at what my finest achievements are, having a beautiful relationship at 54 years of age where I feel madly in love. Like I get tears in my eyes when I say that, because that's actually the original mission, was to have the love that I saw in my mum and dad. Well, I got there. I went off the beaten track, and like my father taught me, he taught me how to find my way home. So even though I was a long way from the caravan, I got back. But not only that, my mother taught me that, you treat everybody with equal dignity and respect, and everybody's part of your family, and everybody that you meet this person in that town, but they're still part of your family wherever you go, and they're going to come and visit you, and you're going to visit them, and they're part of your experience. So even that with Jackie, my first wife, is that I conquered that as well, to go, no, she's such a special part. Oh my goodness, she was like half of me for a period of time while I was still learning out who I was, working out who I was. And so the restoration of love with her, which also allowed me to restore the love with myself, which also allowed me to restore the love with my kids. And that to me is a far greater achievement, to have a beautiful relationship and a mixed family that loves and cares for each other and literally doesn't fight. Not that they don't have like tense, like, because we challenge each other and we laugh and everything else.
Sure.
But they don't. They love each other. They actually genuinely love each other, And I look around, I go, it's not that many places where the brothers and the sisters and everybody, completely love each other. They look at each other and their eyes shine when they're listening to each other talk. And so that's by far a greater achievement. And also the fact that I can be still. So I can actually slow my mind down and stop, take a few breaths, and I can be still. I can sit in a sense of oneness and a sense of intuition, a sense of belonging to the whole universe. And I can find inspiration in that is far greater and far more important to me than what I want to do today. Yeah. I get this inspiration to go do that because I feel like the universe is telling me to do it. When your dad said, you should do the podcast with Brandon, I was like, absolutely. Like I get this bell going, ding, 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 ding. Like I just couldn't wait to talk to you, mate. So I find them as much greater achievements than those other things. Yet that doesn't mean those other things are less than. It just means that they were such a beautiful part of me becoming who I am. And to sum it up, I would say that middle part of my journey was win at all costs, because I have to win, because if I don't, I lose. Psychologically, I've lost. And what happens is you get the sponsor and you get all the... So you got free air for the year. When you won the World Championship, I won 4 World Championships. You win it for 2 years. It's like having an Olympic gold medal for 4 years. You win it for 2 years, So you win a World Championship, like I'm World Champion for the next 2 years. Like, whoa, no one can put me down now because, hey, look at my trophy came. I'm current World Champion, So psychologically it was like a protection, which meant that I was insecure underneath it. But ultimately, the journey that I walked was win at all costs, because if I can win that, I'm set up. I've got controls and guarantees in place. What I've shifted to and I've understood is the natural progression is not to win at all costs, but to then take winning through to win on all levels, where you're not doing it from force, you're doing it from flow, and you're not doing it from desperation, you're doing it from connection. You're not doing it from scarcity, you're doing it from openness and abundance.
It was once the stick, it's now the carrot.
Yeah, and it's almost like the horse that I ride now. Once upon a time it was the end result. Now the idea of winning is what I'm riding on. So it's like I'm sitting on top of it and riding around, going, oh, how can we win in this way, win in that way? It takes me through life, and it's a journey to see what all the different versions of winning are. And it's as simple as being able to be still is winning in this world, because most people will tell you that I can't be still. Let's meditate. I can't, So that's winning. Having love, restoring love with someone you had an argument with, that's winning. you know, following your intuition and being courageous enough to ride that wave of your intuition into a place that's scary for you, that's winning. To discover that you were meant to be there and that something magic happens. So, so I'm on a different aspect of the same journey. I'm still I'm still on the exploration of what freedom really is and what power really is. But power is no longer something you hold over others or you exclusively hold the title. It's actually, power is the power of I'm here and I'm here now, and look at all these beautiful humans that we can play with and learn from each other. And I've never discovered anybody that I loved or hated that wasn't reflecting something in myself. You know, hated them, judged them, and it turns out that, hang on, I'm being a bit of a wanker too. You know, like,
there you go.
I love the way they're so enthusiastic. It's like, hang on, that's me too, isn't it? You know, we're reflecting each other. We're the best and the worst is coming through, and that's why, as humans, we have to find a space where we share, because in the sharing we can see.
If you spot it, you got it, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I like that. I haven't heard of that. It's simple.
It's yours. It's yours.
Lots of people are thankful for that, Brandon. Thank you.
There you go. Well, look, I'll tell you, a lot of people are going to be thankful for what you just shared, because, you know, a big part of my motivation, you know, my co-host Boyson, he and I balance and we harmonize with each other quite well, because Boyson, being older than myself, he really holds down this kind of elder energy and kind of brings in the deeper mythopoetic side of manhood and masculinity. Me at, you know, just turning 30, still very much feeling like the sword it's not sheathed, it's out there, man, swung around right now. I love connecting with athletes. Yeah, there you go. I love connecting with athletes. I love connecting with high performers. And, you know, much in part, the reason why that's important to me is because, you know, growing up, especially in Australia, and I know it's the case here in America and many, many cultures and countries, athletes represent what's possible for so many, especially from a young age. And not just conquering the physical game, but the mental, and what you're sharing is the spirit and the heart side as well. And in doing so, it's so easy for me to look at that intro of yours, Australian champion, world champion, Hall of Fame, Australian order, all these things. When I read that, I can at times barrier between me and Trevor, another barrier between me and Trevor, another barrier between me and Trevor, and go, man, on a pedestal. He's up there, I'm down here. And in the conversation that we've just had in the 35 minutes we've been rocking and rolling here, is you've removed those barriers by sharing your vulnerabilities, by sharing that, you know, you've been, you know, at the peak of, you know, one of the greatest athletes in your field in the world, but then, you know, driven by this kind of dark side energy of, oh no, got to win, got to beat him, got to beat him. Yeah, by lack, right? Driven by a lack, and also that narrative of not good enough, that not good enough kind of driving beneath that. And then before this interview, you check in with me and share that you've got this little voice of not good enough playing in your mind right now.
Yes.
And I go, thank you. How human of you to share that and go there and reveal that. Because now what I can do and what many of my listeners can do is go, wow, Trevor gets me, and I feel like I get Trevor right now, and how human, and I can connect on that level and not look at the accolades as a measuring stick, but look at the human being who's opening their heart right now in this conversation. So, mate, thank you for that.
Oh, mate, thank you. I've got tears in my eyes. I feel you've just done an amazing job of summarizing that, and I just had a feeling, you know, that I'm that little kid walking over to the fence with my collection of Matchbox cars, and I'm sitting down with you in the audience saying, hey, grab one and play with it, you know, let's all share in them together, because I've got something that you could have, but you might not have at the moment. So let's share them around. And those Matchbox cars are these experiences and these stories and this comfort with my own truth. You know, it's probably a thing, is that I'm comfortable in the vulnerability and the honesty of who I really am and what process I'm still on. So the truth is, I have an amazing life and I have incredible opportunities. I work with people all around the world. I work with some incredible people world champions and actors and musicians, and get to work with a crazy amount of people, and mums and dads, and like I work with. I get told who to work with by the universe. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
It's like if people ring up and contact me through some weird means or whatever, and it's like I feel it straight away. Follow that up. Make sure you work with that person. And it could be someone who's been on heroin for 30 years, living on the street. It could be someone who's, I don't even know what they do, and I don't even go into it. They just come and they ask one particular question they want answered, and we work our way through that, and then they'll come back 6 months later and reveal that that they're a multi-millionaire, or that they're, whatever it is, because it doesn't matter to me. I'm here with my Matchbox cars, which are my awarenesses and my vulnerabilities and my feelings and my intuitions and my deeper truths and my knowings and a little bit of wisdom and insight. And that's the whole collection of cars and trucks and ramps that you could build. And I'm just still wanting to play with everybody. When I pull up at a new place, so I leave. I don't want to eat. I want to walk over to the fence and discover who wants to play with the cars,
Yeah, I love that, mate. So you're sharing your gift, and that's what's most important. You're not hoarding it for yourself. You're not, slapping a paywall between people and yourself and saying, "Here's my 6 secrets to success and becoming an Australian and world champion," and you don't have access to it unless you're giving that gift more freely. And I think that's that's beautiful.
I laugh because you don't understand how much I've literally not wrestled with it. I've not wrestled with it as in I want to do anything other than the way I do it, but just wrestle with it because the society says you've got to do it this way, and this is successful. I've written programs and people said you should charge this much, and I've said no, I'm charging this much, and you could do that, this, and this, and this, and you'd be set for life. And I'm going, well, no, I'm going to do that, this, and this, and make it available to more people. And you're an idiot. It's literally like the old world and the new world. The new world is where we remember who we really are and we communicate, common union, communicate.
So there's something to that. You said, remember who you are. I feel like that's so common in this journey, and I'm certainly guilty of this, of trying to find and discover, who I am as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a who I am. How can I find that person? And you mentioned yourself with the Matchbox cars. Sometimes we just have to remember where we came from before the 6 laps in the swimming pool where everyone was better than you, before your head flushed in the toilet, before the World Championships. Who was that kid?
Who was I before I was conditioned? Before you conditioned. Before I was the game. Dangled the bait in front of me and said, well, you can't have it unless you do this, this, and this. Instead
play by
of going,
the rules.
well, I'm going to do it a different way. I did it that way and learned all from that, which is, that's how you find out what cold is, by exploring hot, right? So the interesting thing is that I think it's this ongoing thing, that I'm still sharing, literally, authentically, waking up each morning going, oh, I feel free in this moment. And then I go, wow, what's that challenge? It's right in my face. So even it was something that you said about, it'll come back into me, but I noticed, so for example, offering things up at either for free or an easily accessible price or whatever, just being very maneuverable and flexible around how I do things, not treating it as a spiritual business. I treat it as an awakening, an unraveling, evolving awakening, and it's just like me and everybody else, and it belongs to all of us. And but it's funny that I remember 2 things. One was that I have times when I go, oh, I want to charge more for that, or I want to be paid well for that, or I feel this energy still, and and I like, oh, it's a common sense energy, and I go, no, that doesn't feel right. It feels like a tangle inside of me, and every time I release it again, then someone will come along and say, hey, can we get you for this job? And they won't ask me what my price is. So it's a speaking engagement. They won't ask me just after I've released this stuff, it happens often, they'll say, can we get you for this job? And they won't ask me what my price is. They'll say, we can pay you this much.
Yeah.
And it'll be a couple of $1,000s more than my price.
Yep.
And I go, that's fantastic. you know, and they go, would that be okay? We just really want you. Is that enough? And I'm like, sure, no problems.
10 grand honorarium, 20 grand honorarium. There you go. Yeah. Well, I think there's something to that for sure, though. You know, by relinquishing the desire to value,
need to control, or the need to,
There you go. Well, you've created this thing, right? And I don't know. I can only speak for myself. Tell me if you resonate with this, but when I'm coaching someone, I don't actively work as a life coach or men's coach anymore. But when I was coaching someone or I created a program, I had challenges separating myself from the success of that program, kind of the identity of such, and what is what made pricing uncomfortable. So I would slap a fat price tag on it, but then the pressure was to deliver the value.
Something
or if
incredible.
Bingo, if I didn't charge enough, I'm like, God, is this all I'm worth? Pennies on the dollar. But by relinquishing that, someone comes along and goes, we'll pay you large sum to bring your gifts. And
I just noticed that it's a kind of a fluent thing. And a friend and I were talking about a couple of mornings ago on a morning walk and a swim together. Was like, it's funny, you know, there's an old saying, before enlightenment, fetch water, chop wood.
Yeah, fetch water, chop wood.
After enlightenment, fetch water, chop wood. You know, and so without having the dicky element of enlightenment, you know, like, enlightenment, you know, like literally, let's call it awakening. Before awakening, I was doing this job. And after awakening, I'm doing the same job roughly, but I'm actually no longer tangled in it. And my identity's not tied to it. And if someone cancels at the last minute, it's like, oh, well, you know, like I'm in the bigger flow of life. And that's something that creates sustenance or feeds me in the bigger flow of life. And it's a wonderful place to exchange and learn and drive the whole energy that's running through my life. But it's not my life. You know, but once upon a time, it was my life. I have to be successful to win that. That was who I was, that or nothing. And now it's like, no, I'm a guy, you know, I'm a being, I'm a little, you know, whatever, I'm a soul, whatever you want to say. I'm an identity walking through life, learning how to actually be more present, more available, make more of a difference, be more fulfilled and more free in myself, you know. So it's an ongoing journey that has all these elements to it. And just another thing quickly, a mate of mine who was a hero and a champion but prior to me, and I was going up the sunny coast, and he said, I rang him up and he said, come stay at my place. Go stay at my place, I'm not there. I went, oh. He goes, yeah, you just walk, massive house, the keys around the back, you just go there, that door's open actually, just go through that and just go stay. You know, so there's nobody there, and I go to his house, you know, an old friend and a great mate. And I'm thinking I'm pretty free at the time. And then I'm walking through his house and I'm looking at all the things. Well, I've gone on a spiritual journey to discard things in my life and to sell everything out of the garage and to free myself up and put the trophies in a box somewhere and just, you know, like, so they don't define me. Not so they don't define me, they just didn't define me. So they're in the box, I'm not putting them on the bench. So I couldn't be bothered, you know. So everything, I'm going through this spiritual life and I'm helping people and everything else. And I walk into his house. And as I'm walking through, I see all the beautiful things that he's gathered from around the world. And this voice in my head as I'm walking through is like, I'll take that, and I'll take that, and I'll have that, and I'll take that. And it's like somewhere in my mind, I've done the hard yards spiritually for all of us. So now you all owe me, you know. While you've been off, you know, sowing your corporate loins around the world and doing this, you know, you need to give that to me. And this is many years ago. This is about 12 years ago.
Yeah,
right?
Get that black belt off, Trevor. You get that black belt off. Back to the white.
Oh, my God. So straight away, I'm like, oh, my God, how spiritual am I that I want to take someone's stuff so that I feel like as I've got my worth. So it was like this really curious thing of where's that coming from? So it was literally I'd had the scarcity that I had in Ironman racing that I tried to create an abundance. I said before, lack, everything was from lack. You know, so I had this lack or this scarcity of love, scarcity of acknowledgement, scarcity of feeling good about myself, scarcity of connection, scarcity of divinity, of inspiration. And then it relates to scarcity of money, scarcity of girls, you know, interest from girls, scarcity of whatever it is, you know. And so I was living in scarcity and lack, and I had this solution to get all of those things in abundant amounts. And I got those things, but most of them were falsely propped up. So even the connection was propped up through a falsity or whatever else. So I had to then lose it again later to know what I really needed. So when I lost it all, I was now uncomfortable. I was comfortable, I thought, having nothing because I had the spiritual identity. Like now I'm of service to the community. I'm no longer an Ironman with an ego. It was a spiritual ego. It was like a load of shit. So all of a sudden, it wasn't until I walked into his house that I realized, oh, I've still got exactly the same scarcity. I've just manifested in like a Mother Teresa type facade.
You rebranded
Mother
it. Yeah, Sheep and Wolf's Clothing, or maybe that's not the right one, but you've rebranded the ego and slapped a koi pond at your feet.
Yeah, so I had to. It was, and it's perfect because it gave me the opportunity to see at another level. Hang on, mate, you're still disconnected. You're trying to get connection or validation through your sense of worth or effort that you put into other people. And it's like, well, that's a falsity too, because it's actually not just a humble, simple thing inside of you that's, you show up, you be there for people, you just listen, you care, So that's still a journey. That's a constant journey to be able to just actually be somewhere and be purely present and of service, not actually serving this self, this little piece of mind inside that still, wants a bit back for that sacrifice that it made or whatever else. But I'm definitely winning on that one. But it's been a journey.
The what's coming alive in me right now is exactly that, right? It's a journey. It doesn't end. There's other levels or layers. There's no measuring. There's no plane in which it can be measured. It's just that self-discovery. The onion keeps on peeling, and the work keeps going on.
And the mind says, well, when am I happy then? If the journey never ends, when am I going to be finally happy and in peace and free?
Now.
And the truth is, every day that I break through something, I'm more happy, more at peace, and more free. And the next day I wake up and the next thing's right in my face. To go, would you shift this inside of yourself for yourself and others? And then if I do, I call it having space around me. That I've got space and I feel amazing in that space. And then the challenge comes in to take that space away. But what actually happens, it's not taking the space away. It's showing where I haven't gone to yet, which creates more space. And so it's like an expansion of who we are in our capacity, in our circles of influence, our spheres of influence. And it's actually literally is at the bottom of it. I wouldn't so much say about happiness, but I'd say, because that's a bit of a trap, it's an illusion, I'd say it's peace and joy and connection and certainly freedom, a sense of freedom comes every day I conquer something else. And that usually the thing I'm conquering is right between here. Stuck in here, carrying around in the head, the heart, the gut, the neck, the back, even carrying in that relationship or that friendship. But the part that I've got to unhook is here. I've got to pull this out of the way, clear out the head, get all the shit out and all the old beliefs from where it originally came from. And then all of a sudden I'm there and I'm thankful to have the experience.
Mm-hmm. Head's just a tool. The head is just a tool.
Yeah. I often say to people, I've worked out that obviously the mind is it's a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. And so because it works in fear and insecurity and the mind works in duality, good, bad, right, wrong, win, lose, success, failure, rich, poor, fat, skinny, dumb, smart, slow, fast, success, failure,
binary. It's a binary.
The mind is all there, and the spirit knows that all of this is just a thing that we're journeying through to learn hot and cold, to learn contrast, so we can actually make clear choices and actually choose to be of service, not in the need of fulfilling as I said, I have these lacks, so I've got to do that so that lack goes away. It's like, no, that's that game. And so I've basically worked out that as we release that, we start to kind of be more in the moment, and the inspiration's here. And that, as you said, we're not searching for something outside of ourselves or trying to become somebody or something. What we're actually doing is revealing the pearl that's inside the oyster, and we're pulling the flesh away till the pearl's revealed from the pressure that's been under the oyster. We're revealing all the parts of ourselves that are the magic. They're already there. It's who we are. It's not our normal self because we're normally stressed, but it's our natural self. It's who we actually naturally are. And that's where, when we get in alignment with our psychological self and our natural self, which is more of our spiritual, simple essence, our beingness, everything's peace and everything's an opportunity, everything's fun. And that's the end of that part of the journey, because then everything's happening. I love this model that we begin to think everything's happening to me, like I was saying. So we've got to change that, so it works on my behalf, works for me. But actually everything that's happening to me is actually happening for me, because it's teaching me something. And then as we move up through for me, we start to get into, and there's a few different models of this, but the simple 3-part model that I look at is to me, for me, and then through me. Like, life is actually trying to evolve, and healing and change of catharsis, and the way men be men through these conversations is trying to happen through us. And then ultimately from a higher source, the 4th thing was all decided by me as a conscious co-creator of this reality. So to me, we're victims. For me, we're released and we're riding the wave. Through me, we realize, okay, I can channel this through me, and by me means, this all happened because I decided it was going to, and and I'm a contributor in this whole conscious collaboration of this earth that we're on.
To me, for me, through me, by me. I like that model. I'm going to write that down and remember that one.
And I know other people say by me as me.
As me.
As me, so it's different. People say it different ways, but
there you go. Well, Trevor, mate, I want to respect your time. We've come to the time we have allotted. I feel like we could go on for days. I feel like there's some good.
We'll do another one another time, mate.
There you go. We'll say till next time, because there's certainly some alchemy here, and I know you've got a lot happening in your world right now. All your kids are doing phenomenal things, and your son TJ's out there very much carving his own path, and
my son Bailey he's an Australian Open Jiu-Jitsu champion. My daughter Charlie's living overseas, and my older daughter Chrissy has got the two most incredible twins and an amazing relationship herself, and does incredible things in the social media space to bring consciousness into it, and marketing and stuff like that. And they're all their own person, and it's quite fascinating. My wife, for people that want to know, my wife has the Girl Awakening podcast, and it went to number 2 in Australia for spiritual podcasts on Apple. I think by episode 12. She's just having incredible conversations with women, healers, and everything else. And so it's amazing. I'm out helping, got breath and breakthrough retreats with my buddies, and helping men let go and open their heart up and feel and share. And my wife's actually helping women heal their wounds and everything else. And when we lay in bed at night time, it's like, hey, how was today? It's kind of crazy, the journey we're on. And so there's some pretty cool little adventures and things happening around the place. So
amazing. It just keeps unfolding. Well, for those of you joining us, we'll make sure the links to the Girl Awakening podcast will be in the show notes, as well as if you want to find out more about Trevor and his work, and perhaps inquire into his coaching, head to trevorhendy.com. That's TrevorHendy.com. Mate, is there any other areas that we can keep watching, keep following what you're doing?
It's Hendy Trev on Instagram. I occasionally throw little things on there. YouTube, I put a few adventures that my wife and I go on through the outback of Australia. I'm kind of retracing some of my dad's steps that he took me on. And so if people want to see a little bit of Australia, that pops up there. It's pretty interesting. And that's just Trevor Hendy YouTube station. But also in Australia here, I'm a co-founder of the Life Changer Foundation, which is lifechanger.org.au. And that's for kids, for youth. We're now working with about 10,000 kids and 1,000 mentors around the country to get self-awareness at a younger age, so they don't go into dysfunctional aspects of life, because school doesn't teach them the stuff we've just been talking about. So,
mate, yes, thank you. That's yes. It's all well and good helping men and women and non-binary folk after the fact.
Yes.
But what if we could help prevent many of these?
Absolutely.
Many of the paths that these dysfunctions lead people towards. So that's beautiful.
Our mission. If we've done a couple of laps around the block, is just share with people. So you don't have to go as far down if you don't want to. You know?
But as well, at least be there. Be there when they touch that stove, because they have to touch that stove, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful, Trevor. Well, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. And of course, special thanks goes to our listeners who join us each and every week. Of course, we're, that's what we say each and every week. I want to send my gratitude and love to those who have been sending gratitude and love towards us on the passing of our beautiful brother Michael, who's been our engineer and working on our audio since the beginning of this podcast. So thank you for remembering him, for acknowledging him, for witnessing him, and sharing his episode. Well, his 3 episodes that we've had on the show, which have all been incredibly powerful. So thank you to you guys, the listeners. We're always blown away by the support you guys send our way. And of course, the fee for this episode is to share it with those whom you believe could benefit from the message, Trevor's message, and the conversations that we've had here today. So lots of love. This has been the Mankind Podcast, the show where we break the molds of modern manhood to prove there's more than one way to be a man. What do you say, Trevor? Do you reckon we did that?
Oh, mate, I think we nailed that. We'll certainly open the conversation.
Yeah, this is part 1. Stay tuned for part 2. But yeah, lots of love, and we'll see you next week.